What's up out there? October in the United States means Halloween is coming soon, and with that brings the Halloween horror movie marathon that I've been doing for the last basically 10 years or so. I've been doing this since 2015, and the first year that I did this was pretty much just random movies. The second, third, maybe fourth year, I had dual list kind of thing going. One list was like a themed list, like serial killers, or I think one year I did the history of horror. And then the other side was off the Letterboxd website. There was a user that was creating this list called Hooptober, and it's basically a scavenger hunt. You're given a list of stuff, criteria, which is what's up at the top of the screen here. You got to find movies that fit that criteria, and then you basically watch them. There's 31 movies. There's, certain countries, certain decades, that kind of thing. Not certain countries, certain decades, but certain number of countries and decades and things like that. Trying to spread things out and get you to look at movies you wouldn't normally watch is basically what I like about this, as opposed to revisiting the Halloweens and the Friday the 13th and that stuff every year. This kind of gives me I love watching different movies, and this kind of gives me a way to go and check out other countries. Like South Korea is really good. Japan's had some really cool horror movies. Just depending on where you're at, there's a lot of cool stuff out there. Italian giallo type movies. Like there's a lot of things I didn't even know existed until I started doing this scavenger hunt type thing, whatever you want to call it. So I have now completed my marathon for the year. I'm still watching some horror movies. For me, this kind of runs from, say, September through early November, somewhere in there. Either I'm completely sick of watching horror movies as of October 31st and I quit, or I've got a few movies that I want to watch and it spills a little bit into November. Usually what September is like a warm-up. I'm going and watching stuff that I haven't seen in years, or watching some movies that didn't make the list that I found. I'm like, that looks cool. And then I go watch them. Now, this year was a little bit different. So last year, I've been doing this since 2015. So last year, I thought I was kind of running out of movies, and I was kind of worried. I'm like, I know there's thousands of horror movies out there, but I was kind of worried that I was running out of stuff to watch. And this year, it kind of really made me realize what was going on. So I was running out of The Shining, The Thing, Alien, stuff like that. I was running out of the really high quality 4 or 5 star movies and going more into the mid-level stuff, which isn't bad. There's a lot of good mid-level movies out there. And I don't mean mid as in just they're bad. I mean, like they could be fun, bad, low budget B movies that are just really fun or something like that. And this year really was a very even year. Like in years past, I've had like a 5-star movie followed by a 1-star movie, and that's really uneven. And this year you're going from maybe a 3.5 star to a 3-star or something like that. Now, ignore my star ratings on here. The star ratings that I have for the marathon, I don't have a star rating for the marathon itself. I have a star rating that I use with all the other movies that I rate. I've rated a lot of movies on Letterboxd. So this is just what in relation to all the other movies I've watched. These would be rated a little bit differently. If it was just the 31 movies in the marathon, they would be a little bit higher, a little bit lower, or something like that. So ignore the star ratings on this. There are some that I really liked, even though I didn't give them necessarily as great of a star rating. I had a lot of fun watching them. And let's see here. I started this on September 26th. That was the Labor Day weekend, I think, for what we have here in the US. And I just binged a whole bunch of movies that weekend. And I actually finished on October 14th. I am still watching stuff today, and I'll be watching stuff for the next week until we get to the end of the month. But this is just kind of follow-ups, things that as I was watching these, I was like, oh, that'd be cool to go watch. And other things that I bought along the way and thought, yeah, this is cool. So let's see here. Is there anything else I need to mention? I go from oldest to newest. I find that is the best experience. If you go from all the movies you really like up front, you front load it, and then you're watching all the stuff you really don't want to watch at the very end, and it kind of makes the marathon suck. If you watch them randomly, it's not bad, but you watch something from, that's really good, and then you watch some old black and white silent film from the 20s, it just makes it really bad. So I find that if I start from the very back, the oldest one, and move forward, it's just a lot more of an even experience throughout. So let's dive into this whole thing. We got 31 movies to talk about, and we're going to start off with White Zombie. For this criteria, I needed a zombie film and a film from 1932. So you can have multiple criteria. The one movie can fit multiple criteria. So this was an obvious choice. It's called White Zombie, and it's from 1932. Now, this one here stars Bela Lugosi, and it's more of your Haitian zombies as opposed to what we get in the 60s with Night of the Living Dead. So they're not like fast running or anything like that. Like this is the old school ones. And this is more like what I would call hypnosis or mind control or something like that. They're called Dead, but it's not the zombie movie you would think it is. And somehow I managed to pick, I needed 5 zombie movies. So when I went into this, I was like, man, there's no way. I'm just going to pick all 5 zombie movies that are all identical and I'm just not going to like it. And somehow I managed to pick 5 distinctly different zombie movies. So this was pretty cool. I've never, and I guess another thing I should mention about these lists, I try to watch movies that I've never seen before or haven't seen in a very, very long time as a refresher, because I don't want to watch the same stuff over and over. I always try to watch something new. So start off with a White Zombie. This was an okay movie. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was kind of just, it was okay. It was an average movie. And I caught this one on Tubi. Tubi has got a great selection of movies if you're interested in watching a lot of different movies in general. They're older, maybe B movies, but there's a lot of good stuff on there. You're going to see Tubi a lot on this list. I don't know. White Zombie was okay. I don't really have anything else to say about it. It was kind of cool. It was kind of interesting to see like Haitian style zombies and that kind of thing. The next one up is The Wizard of Oz from 1939. They actually asked us to watch this on here, and I didn't really understand why they were asking for it. I think it's something to do with David Lynch, a comment he made about The Wizard of Oz or something like that. But when I watched this, it made a lot of sense. Like you've got the Green Witch, you've got the kids with candy and stuff all running around. You've got the various costumes that these guys are wearing, like the Tin Man and everything. Like it somehow it didn't seem like it was going to fit this. I was like, that's kind of a weird thing to put in here. But honestly, after watching it, The Wizard of Oz actually fit the marathon a lot better than I thought it would. Let's see. There was something I wanted to mention about it, and I don't remember what it was. The green-skinned witch and all that stuff. Like just all of that, it just all came together, and it made a really cool entry for the marathon that I just would have never thought would have fit. Next up is The Leopard Man. This, I needed the most popular movie from the 1940s that I hadn't watched yet, so I picked it, or I think I already had this one, so I just threw it in here. It was kind of an early Giallo-style serial killer movie. It was okay. I didn't really love it or hate it. It was kind of like the White Zombie back here. It was just okay. Interesting concept, and it was kind of interesting to see the idea of a serial killer back in the 40s, but not, you know what I mean? Like it was that kind of thing, but kind of not. So it was kind of interesting from that standpoint. But yeah, this is why I watch all the older movies first. Up after that was The Curse of Frankenstein. This one, I needed one based on a novel, and I don't think I would have used this one as based on a novel, but I think it actually comes up and says that it is. And it is based on Frankenstein, and it is pretty much a retelling of Frankenstein. If you've seen any other Frankenstein movie, you've probably watched this one. The one good thing on this one is it had Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee in it. Otherwise, it was just kind of a run-of-the-mill Frankenstein telling, if you want. I think it's a Hammer movie or one of those, but it was okay. Next up is The Whip and the Body. This one's got Christopher Lee in it. I wrote that this is darkly lit, boring, and it sucked ass. There was one good scene where you get Christopher Lee, like his hand coming out of the darkness or whatever. The rest of this movie, you couldn't see what was going on. It was just kind of boring, and it went on for a long time. Didn't care for it all that much. Messiah of Evil from 1974. This was a zombie film. This was really cool. I like this. This was a very unique zombie film. So there's like this, I don't want to say a preacher, but something like a preacher or something coming through and turning people into zombies, but they're not the zombies you're used to. So this is a little bit after we get Romero's zombie film from the 60s, but they're still not quite the known factor that we have today. Like all zombie movies are just kind of rubber stamped of versions of the Night of the Living Dead. This one was different. This one was, it was zombies, and I was worried that this one wasn't going to fit, but it actually fit. It was zombies, but it was different zombies. So it was unique. Liked it. Eraserhead. Yeah, man, I have no idea what I watched. This one, I needed a film with dreams or a dream as part of the plot. Now, whether this is like some weird psychopath or Fever Dream, or I have no idea. I have no idea what I watch. I threw in my review for this, I put 3 stars on it, and I just basically said I need to put a star rating on this. I have no idea what I watched. It's just like some of the most bizarre and random stuff you can see. And I just didn't even know how to rate it. Like I was like, okay, I just put stars on here, and then that's it. So it was interesting, I guess. I don't know, man. It was just this weird, it was like an hour and a half or 2 hour long Tool video or something. Just weird, bizarre stuff that there was a story, but man, I have no idea what I watched. So yeah, Eraserhead was an interesting watch. Let's say that. Grapes of Death. This is another zombie film. Now, this one was from like zombies that came from pesticides that made the grapes go bad or something like that and turned people into zombies or whatever. It was, again, another one that wasn't quite the same as all the other zombie movies you're used to seeing. It was just a little bit different. So I think we're up to number 3 now. 3 or 4. This was 3 because 4 is coming up soon, but this was a fairly unique movie. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty cool. It was similar to another movie I watched like last year at some point. That was another kind of zombie movie. I can't remember the name of it. It was like The Living Dead at something mortuary or whatever. I don't remember what it was, but that one was interesting. It was kind of along the same lines, but it was more like some machinery that was like farm machinery was making a weird noise that turned people into zombies. This was kind of like that, but again, not really like the normal zombie movies that you're used to. It was just kind of different. Up next is another based on a novel movie. This is The Dead Zone. This was okay. I thought it was decent up until the last third. Then it became more of a, I don't know, it's more of a, I don't want to say drama, but more of it wasn't horror at that point. It was just trying to, I don't know. I didn't care for the ending, the last portion of it. The lead up to it was pretty cool. I just wish they would have done something with the last third of it and just ended it a different way. It just didn't feel like a horror movie at that point. It felt more like I don't know, a political statement, I guess, or something like that. It was just, didn't really care for it. It was okay otherwise. After that, I watched Silent Madness, and this is the one I used for a silent film, and this is like an mid-80s slasher. This one the guy was actually mute. So although it wasn't, because I just didn't want to watch something from the 1920s. I was like, I don't want to watch some old actual silent film. I thought this was fitting. I bought some pack of movies. This came with it, and I was like, all right, I'll just check this out. And it fit because the guy was a mute. This was a fun, bad movie. Like, it was a bad movie, and it was kind of a comedy, but it was a fun comedy. So I enjoyed it. This one was kind of fun to watch. And, up until this point in the marathon, everything's going fine. I have no complaints. So it wasn't like I needed something like a uplift or something, but this one was pretty good, and it was entertaining, at least. Up next is Zombie vs. Ninja, and this is a zombie movie. So this is another pack of like kung fu horror movies or something that I bought. This is from Hong Kong, and this one was good. The interesting thing about this movie is it wasn't a ninja guy fighting zombies. It was a karate movie or martial arts movie, I guess is the proper word for it, but it was a martial arts movie, and the guy was fighting other martial artists along the way. The zombies were actually training dummies. So they were basically like AI training sparring partners. It was an interesting concept. The master would just go and conjure up some zombies, and dude would go fight him. It was a little bit of a comedy, kind of a slapstick sort of comedy. It was fun. It was interesting, very different, not necessarily what I expected. I kind of expected the guy was fighting like, zombies or whatever, like straight up fighting hordes of zombies, and he's kung fu fighting them or whatever. Now it wasn't that. It was your normal kung fu martial arts type movie with zombies as sparring partners. So it's a little bit different. Up next was Ghostwatch. Now this is one I had picked up. I've heard a lot about Ghostwatch. This movie was awesome. I love this. Back in the day, back when I grew up in the 80s, there were movies what's his head was going in and opening up like Capone's bank vault or something like that. Like, this is reminiscent of that style of thing, but it was a documentary sort of deal where they're going in and checking for ghosts and stuff like that. This was good. I loved how this went. And there's a more modern movie that's kind of similar to this that I don't really want to reveal it in case you haven't watched it and you want to go see it. But there's a modern movie that is very similar to this, and I could see where it borrowed a lot. This was cool. I really liked this. It had a really cool story, very well executed, and it's this docudrama type thing. Great movie. Loved it. Up next is Body Melt. This was one I bought a while back, and let me get it on my list here. So Body Melt was a movie I started watching, I don't know, middle of last year at some point or earlier this year, somewhere along the line. I started watching it and I'm like, this would make a really good Halloween horror movie marathon entry. So I just stopped watching it. It's really goopy and really nasty. So this is I don't want to call this an anthology, but it's kind of sort of built like one. Whereas anthology movies typically have named segments. You're going to go in, you've got the wraparound segment, then you've got each segment in between is named, and it goes between like that. This isn't that, but each one of the little stories, each character or each set of characters that goes through their events are told in a different way. So you've got like there was a couple guys that were going around. There was a section in there that was kind of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Then there was some kid riding a skateboard around. So it was like some mid-'80s skater movie or something like that. Like it was these weirdly different sections. So it felt different. Every time you turned around and got a new character and saw what happened to them, it was different each time, but it was cool because it was different each time. And they all kind of just blended together in a really cool way. I love this. This was exactly the perfect entry for this kind of marathon. So if I had a whole list of movies like this that was going on throughout the whole thing, this would be the perfect list because it's fun, it's entertaining. It's not necessarily the greatest movie out there, but you want stuff, especially kind of getting into the middle of the marathon, you want stuff that's fun and not dry or boring or something like that. This was definitely for my opinion, it's a perfect entry into the Halloween horror movie marathon. Next up, because of the list, this is Hooptober is what the list is called, mixed of Tobe Hooper and October. So we always have to have a Tobe Hooper film on the list, and I've watched, I don't know, almost everything that he's ever made. There's only a few movies that I really like of his, so I'm getting down to like running the Texas Chainsaw movie, and then there's that circus one or whatever that one is, the big top, I can't remember the name of it, but I'm getting down to like Texas Chainsaw, the circus one and all that. I'm getting down to just like rotating between 2 or 3 entries. And I remembered liking the Mangler. I forgot he even directed this thing. This has got Robert Englund in it, and it's got the dude from It Rubs the Lotion on Its Skin from Silence of the Lambs. It's got Ted Levine in here. So I watched this way back in the day. So this is one I had seen before, but I hadn't seen this since 95, 96, 97, somewhere in there. I watched it way back in the day and I remembered liking it. Now, this is about a piece of machinery that kills people. It just like sucks people in as they go to load it up or whatever. But it's well done, for something that you would think would be just really campy and stupid. It's not as low budget bad B movie as you would expect. It's probably a lower budget, but it feels like it's punching above its weight a little bit. And I remembered liking this, rewatching it. I was like, yeah. So I think I'm going to put this one in rotation for probably, I don't know, Texas Chainsaw next year or something like that. Maybe the circus one the following year. Funhouse. I think it's called Funhouse. So maybe I'll put that one in. And then this one's going to hit the rotation also. I own it, so now I can just watch it whenever. So we always have to have a Tobe Hooper. It was fun to revisit this. I hadn't seen this thing in forever. Now, next up starts a skid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just 5. These movies sucked and almost sucked the life out of the marathon. I was really starting to consider about Black Swan, Tall Man, somewhere in that realm of just skipping around and starting to watch some other movies. I stuck through it, but man, this was brutal. So let's talk about The Devil's Backbone. I needed a Mexican or Central American director, and this one is Del Toro. So I thought, man, he makes a lot of good movies. This isn't a bad movie per se. It's just a bad entry for a Halloween horror movie marathon. This movie is essentially 100% drama. There's a ghost in it, but it's not like a horror movie. I mean, there's a lot of bad things that happen, but watching this felt 99% drama. Like it felt completely out of place with everything else in here. I know there's a ghost in it and I know there's some gore here and there and some things happen, but it did not feel like it fit this marathon at all. And I was like, all right, this kind of sucked, but I can appreciate that it's a good movie, but it just didn't fit the marathon. Tooth and Nail's up next. This did fit the marathon. The problem with this movie is it was just bad all the way around. It was just kind of a bad movie. You had Robert Carradine from the Revenge of the Nerds in here, which he was in here for a minute. And then you get Michael Madsen, which actually had a part. He was kind of cool in it. But then you had Vinnie Jones pop up and he just like shows up, says some crazy stuff, and then he's gone. Like those three characters or those three actors were in this. And that was kind of what drew me into it. I needed a post-apocalyptic movie, which this did actually fit the criteria. But this movie sucked. I didn't like it at all. And it was just, the skid was just continuing on. We skid into Black Swan. This is a movie I bought a few years ago. I'd heard good things about it. Honestly, I think this would be pair better with something like Whiplash. And yes, the drummer movie, this was more akin to that than it was anything in the horror side. I know there's some violent imagery and stuff like that shows up, but when you're watching this mid-marathon and it's just all drama about some ballet, it just didn't fit, not at all. I kind of had high hopes for The Tall Man. This one, I needed a Canadian, I picked this, I think we did need a Canadian film, so I picked this one because I hadn't seen it, and I was like, I've always seen this on the shelves over the years, or I've always seen posters for it. Never heard anybody talk about it, and now I see why. So this movie starts off like it's a horror movie. Like it's a mid movie. It's not good, but it starts off with the right vibes. It's got the right, the dark atmosphere, and it just starts off like it's going to be cool. And then it slides into drama. It becomes a drama movie. So what I wrote down here is that horror fans are going to hate being lied to because you're sucked into this because it's a horror movie. And then it turns into a drama. Drama people aren't going to watch this because it's a horror movie. And it just ends up being this really piss poor drama. And I think this was the dude that the director for this was the one that directed Martyrs, which is mind blowing because this just ain't it. This was bad. It's like I said, it started off kind of promising. It could have been a mid bad to bad movie, but the drama stuff at the end was just awful. Lyle, this sucked. I needed a cult movie about cults, and this is just poor man's Rosemary Baby. This sucked. A horrible waste of time. It was only a little over an hour, but it still sucked. So I had this really bad skid of movies, and I was like, man, I hope the next few movies going into them aren't awful. And I am happy to say that Dead Lucky is, if you had Tarantino or Guy Ritchie directing a horror movie, I think that's what this was. I needed a Russian or former Russian state film. And these next two are both from Russia, which is kind of interesting. There's a contrast to these. So this is west side of Russia. So over Moscow. I don't know. I don't remember what country this actually came from, but it's on that side of the country. And it's your typical Russian people, but this was all crazy, like I said, a Guy Ritchie movie. So you've all the characters and everything. It's some people are going to do some things, and they need to kill some other people, and then a serial killer shows up and starts killing them. It's that, but then there's some twists at the end that were just totally out of left field. I loved it. I had a great time watching it. This one was fun. I was kind of iffy on this, both of these next two, honestly. Not because they're Russian necessarily, because some of these can be really bad. And this one was a bad movie, but it was a fun bad movie. But some of these can be just awful or boring or something like that. This was anything but, and I had a great time watching this. I loved it. Loved it. This was, and maybe it was coming off of the bad streak that I was, made this one elevate a little bit, but I don't know. I loved it. I had a good time. Up next is Republic Z. This is also a Russian film, but when I was looking for the Russian film, I saw both of these and I was like, man, they both look kind of cool. So instead of using one to fill both criteria, I just kept this one as the Russian film, and then Republic Z is a zombie and post-apocalyptic film. So I thought I'll watch this one. Now, the interesting thing about this, I thought I had the wrong, I started watching it. I'm like, man, these people are Asian. I thought I had the wrong film. I went in and started looking around, and I was talking to a coworker about this. I did not know that the east side of Russia. Like, I've just never watched movies there. I've never watched documentaries there. I'm thinking all of them look like the people from the west side. Well, the east side is more Mongolian type people, which makes sense now that I think about it, but I had no idea. So when I started watching this, I'm like, man, these people have Russian names, everything's there, but they don't look right for what thought I was watching. This was a cool movie. I enjoyed it. It's not the best zombie movie out there. It's kind of run of the mill, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was interesting to see. Like I kind of said earlier, it's kind of neat to see all the different parts of the world because I learned something that I would have never known otherwise. And when I was watching this, I was like, man, I did not know that side of Russia looks differently necessarily than the other side. It just kind of never dawned on me. So, it took a while to let that sink in, but this was kind of an interesting zombie movie, at least. It held up for the most part. For what I needed for the marathon, it was good. I don't know that I would ever watch it again, but for the novelty and everything, it was cool. I enjoyed it. Next up is The Lodge. This is another cult film. This one is about a girl that grows up in a cult, and it's one of those that Jonestowns each other, and then she's like the survivor from it, and then she goes on. It was kind of cool, but at the same time, it was kind of, it was okay. I didn't think it was that great. It was kind of, it was well done, but not necessarily the greatest thing out there. It's free on Tubi if you want to check it out. Actually, the last few of these are free on Tubi. Next up is The Other Lamb. I needed another cult movie, and this one, if you want to watch a movie that is like, so there's a lot of cult movies where you have characters that are affected by a cult. Either they're being chased by them or they're being murdered by them or whatever. But there's somebody that's left the cult or people that are going to something and then they find out they're in a cult and then bad things happen to them after that. This one is straight up about somebody that was born into it and raised into it and this is their thing. They go through this was far different than anything else that I've ever watched as far as like cult movies go. I'm trying to think of some names, but I'm kind of drawing a blank. But like this one is from the inside and you're not looking out. You're not getting affected by external people or anything like that. Like this is straight up, you're in the cult and you're traveling around with them and doing all the stuff with them that they do. This was unique. It's kind of like Midsummer in a way, but more you're just in the cult from the beginning. You're not like joining it or whatever. You're just in it from the start. And I liked it. I thought this one was really good, really well done. It was interesting. It was very interesting to see. Up next is Pearl. This is the follow-up to X, Ty West movie. I didn't really like X. I'd heard all three of these movies were great, so I ended up picking up Pearl and MaXXXine. Didn't really like X, didn't really like Pearl all that much. Thought it was okay. It just, I didn't really like it all that much. Next up, we needed The Animals Are Pissed at Us. I'd heard nothing but bad things about Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, but I thought I ended up getting this and the sequel there's part 1 and part 2. I got both of them for $5. So I was like, whatever, I'll just buy that and throw it on a marathon. Even if it's total garbage, I can watch it on a marathon for $5 and I got my money's worth. I ended up loving this. I thought this was really cool. The mask that they used for Winnie the Pooh was actually kind of, emotive, like when he's, I don't want to say smiled, but like it had different facial expressions on it. I just expected some really crappy Halloween mask to just like one of those plastic ones with the string or whatever. I expected some really bad stuff like that. This was a low budget movie. It was definitely not great. And honestly, I would adjust my star rating down now that I've seen the sequel, because I did watch the sequel to this after I finished my marathon. Sequel's awesome, and there's this whole Winnie the Poohniverse out there, kind of like MCU, but for these bad characters that are now on, what do you call it, the trademark or whatever's up on them, so they're free market, whatever. I can't think of the word for it, but anyway, there's going to be a whole bunch of these. This was actually fun and I enjoyed it. It was very low budget. It didn't really show a whole lot and some of it was kind of basic, but for what it was, I enjoyed it. I actually had fun with it and I liked it. Next up is Exhuma. I think I bought this one last year. I couldn't get into the marathon last year. This is a South Korean movie. If you've never watched any South Korean horror movies, there are some really killer ones out there, and this is another good entry into it. This was about some people that have to cleanse spirits out of grave sites and stuff like that, so they may have to exhume a body, hence the Exhuma, and deal with whatever repercussions there are. So you get like the first scenes of the movie are showing them do their trade, and then you get into this wild story. I liked this. I had a good time with this one. It was, it was interesting. I really enjoyed Exhuma. Next up is another one just to fill out my list. This is MaXXXine. I did not like X and I did not like Pearl. I thought they kind of sucked. I really liked this one. Now, I don't think Ty West is particularly good at horror. He gets lauded for all these horror movies, and I'm just like, they're okay. They're not great. And this one, I guess it's a horror movie. It was kind of a little bit more drama, a little bit more, I don't know, I guess it fits the category. It didn't feel out of place necessarily, but this was not like the other two movies in his trilogy at all. And there's like a murder mystery going on. And this was cool. I think the murder mystery and just the whole story around all that is what sold this one for me. I loved it. I had a great time watching this, and I was pleasantly surprised by it because I hated the other two. I didn't hate necessarily. I just thought they were kind of Didn't live up to the hype. This one actually lived up to the hype. I enjoyed this one. Next up is another based on a novel one, and this is Tarot. I did not know this was based on a novel. And when I was looking for based on novel movies, like I have a whole bunch of Stephen King ones I could have filled in there. But I was like, you know what? I saw this. I had already bought Tarot, and I thought that's a good way to put this on the list. I enjoyed it. I thought this was a cool movie. Did I write any notes on this? Oh, yeah. This kind of felt like a little bit of Final Destination and some 13 Ghosts. Like they were getting killed in particular ways, like 13 Ghosts, like they had their own unique, because of the different tarot cards, each person was killed off in the way their tarot card was, but it was also kind of blended with Final Destination. It was kind of like the lesser versions of both of those. I still enjoyed it. I thought this was pretty cool. I had a good time watching it. I know a lot of people panned this and said it sucked, but I watched it and thought it was pretty cool. That's my taste, though. Next up is Nosferatu. This is from last year. This is also based on a novel. This one, I would say it was a gorier version of the 1970s. I watched the 1970s version of Nosferatu a couple years ago. I actually have all three of them. There's one from like the 20s, or I think it's the 20s is the silent film one. Then there's the remake in the 70s, and then there's this one, which is another remake. The remake from the 70s, I felt like moved really slow and was kind of boring. Looked really good, and it was kind of cool and everything. I need to go back and watch it because I only watched it a couple of years ago in that year's marathon. But this one was a faster paced one, a little bit more gory, but it cut a lot of stuff out. Like this didn't feel as complete of a story. And as weird as it sounds, this one felt like it was kind of a knockoff Dracula. And I didn't get that feeling out of the 70s version. But this one, for some reason, just felt like this is some of the knockoff characters. Like we can't use the word Dracula. We can't use the character names from, some of the other ones from the other movie or the other book and all that. So we're just going to name them, here's Jim or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it was just some weird thing. It was okay. In some ways, I think it was better than the Nosferatu in the 70s, but in some ways I think it was worse. Better pacing, better gore and stuff like that. A little bit less on the story. It feels like it just, some of the stuff got glossed over and not really told as well. But I don't know. It was kind of cool. I put 4 stars on it just because the other thing was, well, for teeth in the neck or whatever. But the other thing is they were biting them in the chest, not the neck. So it was like everything was not Dracula. You know what I mean? I don't know. It felt weird. Up next is Marshmallow. So this is one that I was watching some YouTube video. Some YouTuber was talking about this movie and, doing a review for it and everything. And I was like, okay, it sounds all right. And then they said the big thing about this one is the twist. There is a massive twist in this one that was totally left field. And this movie gets brutal in weird ways. It's a very cool movie. If you're remotely interested in like a modernized Friday the 13th sort of thing, it's some kids at camp. This one is cool, and it's got an amazing twist to it. If you like the kind of campy movie, It's not, and I say that it's not a bad movie. It's not made like a bad B movie or anything like that. It's really well made, really well cast and acted and all that. But it's got the same vibes as something from Friday the 13th or Camp Crystal Lake or something like that. It's just a modern telling of that in a way different way. And then we've got 3 extra credit movies. I've watched Trick or Treat way back in the day. I can't get access to the German Chainsaw Massacre and this Burn Witch Burn. I just haven't rented it yet. So I didn't watch those. I may or may not watch them at some point. But I did close everything off with Sinners. Now, I needed a movie with a black director and a black lead, and for some reason, this one didn't come to mind. This movie was getting so hyped, I just kind of blocked it out. I was like, normally when a movie gets really hyped, like look at the Pearl MaXXXine X trilogy. Those were super hyped, and I didn't really like them all that much. This one was super hyped, and I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to like it all that much. So when I went looking for the criteria for this, I saw the name of this pop up and I'm like, man, why didn't I think of that movie? That was like the biggest movie that was out. So I thought, yeah, that's going to be the closer. That's going to be the one that I finish off on. And this was a good movie. I can see why the hype was there, but ultimately, I don't think I ever want to watch this one again. So my complaint earlier about some of these movies were just far too much drama is the opposite of this one. I loved the dramatic parts of this. I thought the first half or so of the movie was amazing. I was so on board with who the characters were, what their backstories were, their back and forth with each other. I loved it. I thought it was great. I had a great time. And I was thinking, man, I was yelling about drama movies earlier, and now I'm just really digging this one. Where this movie lost me is when they get into the dance scene. So the whole setup for this is it's a couple of brothers come back from Chicago, and now they're going to open up like a dance hall or bar or something like that. They brought a whole bunch of liquor from Chicago, and they're going to do it all up. And in the course of everything going on, you get some vampires show up and ruin everything. This is kind of a combination of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou and From Dusk Till Dawn. And for me, I'd rather just go watch both of those movies than this one. Where this one fell apart is when they actually got the dance hall set up and the bar and everything. Once the night rolled around, and they had a thing where the dude was this really good guitar player. And if you have somebody that's, a good singer and everything too, like he was just amazing. But if you have certain musicians, they can bridge like the past and the future together with the present and everything. So they showed this with this big dance hall full of people, and they had like hip hoppers on one side, and then, some older people from, I don't know where else, some ancient tribe of something from like a few hundred years ago. And, but they were all just like in the same room with everybody dancing around with the people from I think it was in the 1920s that this took place. So they were all just dancing around in the same building. Now, after I watched this, I thought about it a little bit. And I'm like, that part took me out of it because they were all the same characters. Like, that's not the way to say it. They were all the same. They were all real corporeal people that were in the same room together. And that's what threw me out of it. Because if they were shown to be like ghostly figures or something like that, I think it would have made a lot more sense. You've got people that are in the room dancing in that era, that the 1920s or 30s, whatever it took place in. And then you've got people from the future kind of ghostly coming in and dancing and stuff like that. I think that would have kept me in the movie and made it a lot better. But that's where things started falling apart for me, was that scene, because I was like, that just doesn't fit. I understand what they're going for, and I kind of dig it, but because they did it with just everybody's all in the same room dancing, and they're not like supernatural. It's a supernatural movie without supernatural or with things that weren't supernatural, if that makes sense. So that's where things started to come. I was like, I just don't like that scene. I know what they're going for, but I don't care for it. Then we get the zombies showed up, and I was like, they're okay. It kind of reminds me of a bad version of From Dusk Till Dawn, or a not as good a version of From Dusk Till Dawn. So I was like, I'm kind of not caring at this point. And there were some cool kills. The effects were decent, and there were some cool moments in there for sure, but they could have just cut all that out. Realistically, they could have cut the dance scene all the way to basically the end of the night. They could have cut that whole section out and just made it a drama all throughout, just had whatever happened with those people, and I would have been way more on board with it The supernatural aspects of this movie just didn't vibe with me all that well at all. I just didn't care for them. So it was a cool movie, well done, well cast, well acted, well made and everything. I can see why people probably like it a lot. But for me, it just kind of fell apart in that midsection. And this one, oddly enough, this is one that I actually think would have worked far better as a straight up drama, and just seeing how these people's lives were going and how this night brought them together and all that kind of stuff. I think that would have gone over much better for me personally than the way this did with vampires and all that. I thought they just kind of were not necessarily that great. It was cool to see, but is what it is. So I enjoyed it, but like, I think I would have enjoyed it more if it was not a horror movie. But anyway, I had a great year for the marathon. All the movies I watched were really good. Well, I shouldn't say all really good, but they were all really even. Like, I didn't have a lot of ups and downs. I didn't have, I had that skid in the middle there, but for the most part, the whole marathon was a good time. There was a brief skid, but I think another thing is because I got the marathon done in like 19 or 20 days, like I smashed through this marathon quickly. So it wasn't lingering for days. It wasn't several days. I watch on like Friday, I'll probably watch 1 or 2 movies. Saturday, I might do 3. Sunday, I might do 3. So I can watch a lot of movies fairly quickly over the weekend. And I think that's where that skid was like over a weekend, or part of it was over a weekend. So it was there and gone, and I was moved on. But I had a good time as usual, and I learned a few things this year as usual, and it was a good time as always. If you're interested in a marathon, I recommend doing this. If you like horror movies and want to sit down and plow through 31 movies in a month, it's a good time. I had a good time doing it. But anyway, that's going to do it for this video. We will catch you on the next one, and happy Halloween.